Here we have a couple of power functions and we need to find out where they intersect and sketch the graphs. Now, first of all, let's have a look at what we know about these power functions. So f of x, which is x to the power of a third, this 1/3, because I have the odd denominator, that's going to look something like this S shape. It's actually the inverse of the x cubed function. And if I think about what this means, there are some points where every function that's like this, x to the power of 1, x to the power of 1 over 3, 1 over 5, 1 over 7. So that family have some points where every one of those graphs pass through. And we know they pass through -1, -1. We know they pass through the origin, and we know they pass through the point 1, 1. Now, let's have a look at g of x. G of x, which is x to the half, or root x, and remember this could be cube root of x, that looks like this. And any power that has the even number denominator is going to look something like that. So when I have a look at this function, I know that there are points that all these even denominator power functions go through, and those points are 0, 0, and 1, 1. So if I want to just use my knowledge of power functions, I can answer part A where it says find the x values where they equal each other by saying, well, this is common to both and this one's common to both. So therefore my answer to this question would be that f of x equals g of x at the origin and at 1, 1. Now, if I want to solve this algebraically rather than just by using my incredible knowledge, then what I can do is, of course, is say f of x is g of x. Therefore, my cube root of x equals my square root of x. Or if I go back to these powers, x to the third equals x to the half. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to square both sides. So I'm going to get x to the power of 2/3 equals x. And then I'm going to say, well, I know my power rules. So I'm going to divide both sides by x. When I divide both sides by x, though, I need to consider that x could equal 0 or x to the 2/3 over x equals, dividing both sides by x makes this side a 1. Now we know our power rules, 2/3 minus 1, so x to the third equals 1. So therefore my cube root of x equals 1. If I cube both sides for either of these steps, I'm going to get therefore x equals 1. So my two possible options are that x equals 0 or x equals 1. Now I know that the square root of 0, if I sub that into here, my square root of 0 is 0. So one of my points, so I could say therefore f of x or g of x equals 0. So my point is 0, 0. That is what the examiner wants to see. And here I could say f of 1 equals 1. So therefore my point here will be at not 0, but 1, 1. And there are my points. So I can work this out algebraically, or I can work this out just through my knowledge bank. Now let's look at part B. Part B is asking us to sketch these graphs. And of course, we already know what's going on. So I'm going to start sketching these, and I will sketch my square root function first, because that's probably the one that I know the best at the moment. So my square root function, let's do that in green because we've done everything else about the square root function over here in green. So that includes the point 0, 0, and my domain is given to me to include the point 0, and it's going to look like that. Okay, now my cube root function, of course, which I'll do in blue, that's the one that takes this S shape, and this will go like this and come up and go higher and then pass through like that. That shouldn't actually come down. So I'm going to draw that again. because if I make a mistake like that, the examiner won't like me very much. So we need to show that it keeps increasing here. You'll notice this area, it's still on an upward trend, but not increasing as much as the square root function. And this point here where they meet, which I'll mark here, that is my point at 1, 1. And the other point that they both go through is the origin. And there's my sketch graph. Remember always when we sketch these graphs, we should label them. So my green graph, my square root, that's g of x. And I could write g of x equals root x if I wanted to, or x to the half. And my blue graph is f of x, or f of x equals x to the third, or the cube root of x. And that's how I answer that question fully.
If you found this video helpful, please subscribe or like. Thanks.